What a serious thing Hezekiah did. He showed the treasures of Jehovah God to the king of Babylon, to his representatives. Jehovah takes that very serious. And if that's the case, we have to remember that Jehovah's organization or nation is like a wife to him. Jehovah's the one that takes care of his wife, his spiritual life, the organization. So what happens here? Jerusalem was guilty of making alliances with other nations. The nation of Egypt, Babylon, all these nations. The nations that Jerusalem was guilty of making alliances. How did Jehovah God see that when the kings of Jerusalem began mixing with the kings of other nations? Well, it wasn't good. He sent Ezekiel to send them letters, to send them messages. There was an alliance that was made between Jerusalem and the nations. They broke the covenant. So now, what was Ezekiel's job? Jehovah was telling Ezekiel what was going on, what was happening. Ezekiel couldn't believe this. Even saw a vision of Jehovah God. So in order to convince Ezekiel what was going on, what did Jehovah God do? Ezekiel chapter 8, verse 7. Accordingly he brought me to the entrance of the courtyard, and I began to see, and look, a certain hole in the wall. He now said to me, Son of man, bore, please, through the wall. And I gradually bored through the wall, and look, there was a certain entrance. And he further said to me, Go in and see the bad, detestable things that they are doing. So I went in and began to see, and look, there was everything. There was every representation of creepy things and loathsome beasts, and all the dungy idols of the house of Israel, the carving being upon the wall all round about, and 70 men of the elderly ones of the house of Israel, standing in among them, were standing before them, each one with his censer in his hand, and the perfume of the cloud of the incense was ascending. And he proceeded to say to me, Have you seen, O son of man, what the elderly ones of the house of Israel are doing in the darkness, each one in the inner rooms of his showpiece? For they are saying, Jehovah is not seeing us. Jehovah has left the land. Yes, a twisted generation had now come. After there were faithfulness of generations before this twisted generation. Now, in the early 1900s or 20th century, there was faithfulness up to a certain point for many generations of the organization of Jehovah's nation. But something went wrong. Something went terribly wrong. I don't have to explain to you the whole history of ancient Israel, Jerusalem. The outcome was, of course, that Babylon did go in and destroy Jerusalem. And according to scholars and according to historians, and even the Jewish religious churches or synagogues, Jerusalem was destroyed in 587 BC. Anyhow, I don't have to explain the entire history of Jerusalem. You already know it. You already know why they got in trouble. You already know why they were destroyed twice. You already know the interactions that Jesus had when he was sent again to talk to Israel, to talk to Jerusalem, and you know the outcome. I don't have to explain that part to you. It's right here. You go through it all the time in the meetings. The 2 books of Isaiah. You've studied that. You've gone over it. You are Jehovah's people, right? So, if your hierarchy, your governing body, if there are certain ones within the organization that do wrong and hide it, and yet it is exposed, what are you to do? You're to get out. You're to flee. That is what Jehovah God has always done with people in the first nation before it was destroyed. He sent them out to exile. And the second nation, when Jesus said, when you see the disgusting thing standing where it should not be, let the reader use discernment. That means you. You're the reader, not your governing body, not your faithful and discreet slave. You're the reader. You're probably wondering, what point am I driving to? What did the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society do that was so wrong? Well, at this very point, you're being nudged. Many of us out here in exile know that you're being nudged, you're being impelled, you're being disturbed mentally in your head. Something is very wrong. And all the while, attack after attack after attack, the governing body is trying to sell to you that Satan is attacking them. Is Satan attacking them? If the money is running low within the organization, they have to divert to putting ATMs and putting credit card machines. Does that mean they're running out of money? And what does that mean? Let's go back to Amos. Is the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society being attacked by Satan? Let's go back to Amos. This is what Jehovah God says in chapter 4, verse 6 through 10. And I also, for my part, gave you people cleanness of teeth in all your cities and want of bread in all your places, but you did not come back to me, is the utterance of Jehovah. And as for me, I also withheld from you people the downpour when there were yet 3 months to the harvest. And I made it rain on one city, but on another city I would not make it rain. There was one tract of land that would be rained on, but a tract of land on which I would not make it rain would be dried up. And 2 or 3 cities staggered to one city in order to drink water, and they would not get satisfied. But you did not come back to me, is the utterance of Jehovah. I struck you, people, with scorching and mildew. There was a multiplying of your gardens and of your vineyards, but your fig trees and your olive trees the caterpillars would devour. Yet you did not come back to me, is the utterance of Jehovah. I sent you among people. I sent among you people a pestilence in the nature of that of Egypt. With the sword I killed your young men, along with the taking captive of your horses, and I kept making the stink of your camps ascend even into your nostrils. But you did not come back to me, is the utterance of Jehovah. Is the devil really attacking the organization? Or the faithful slave? Is he really? Or is Jehovah God the one causing all of this? Bringing famine, a spiritual famine to the organization? Which one? Satan or Jehovah? This is Jehovah God. When the nation has done something wrong. Right now, all of you brothers and friends that are there are seeing the corruption within the congregations. You're seeing and hearing reports of pedophiles, big cases that the organization is losing to pedophiles, divisions, sects, things going terribly wrong. We've already mentioned ATM machines and credit card machines. Some of the old friends that were in Watchtower or in Bethel are being outed. They've been there all their life. That's not fair. That's not justice. What's going on? What's happening? I'm speaking to you with reason. I'm not going to speak to you with a strong voice, though I can. But what is happening? If all these things are happening and occurring, what does that tell you? Jehovah God's Spirit is no longer there. That's what that should tell you. It's gone. And right now, he is warning every individual within the congregations. All that nudging, that impelling, that disturbance that your mind is going through, that's Jehovah God's Spirit. Each individual, that's Jehovah's Spirit. Because if you're spiritual, Jehovah God is disturbing your mind. He's nudging it. He's saying, something is not right here. Investigate. Not your governing body. You investigate. You. So the question is, to all of you publishers and to all of you Jehovah's Witnesses, all 7 million of you, do you know your God? And do you truly serve Him wholeheartedly, even though you see all the corruption? Jehovah God has always said to get out. We've already said about what Jesus said when you see the disgusting thing. Well, you're probably thinking, well, what's the disgusting thing? This has been explained to many elders. Back in the summer, the last week of July of 2011, I visited the congregation of Lake Highlands. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go see the ones that expelled me, that shunned me, that kicked me out. I didn't want to do that. They kicked me out because I was telling them what this said. And through their arrogance and their pride, they didn't want to listen. Well, their governing body is flawless. Their robes are white. They could never do wrong. Really, they don't sin. Anyways, I went to the congregation. And I spoke to an elder there. I spoke to 2 elders. I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't know what I was going to speak. But before I went, the funny thing is that I was being disturbed to go. I didn't want to go. Go. I did not want to go. Go. Prodding me, pushing me, shoving me to go, even though I did not know what I was going to say. When we sat down in the little room, I right out bluntly kindly told the brother that destruction is at the doorstep of the organization.